Good morning and a warm welcome to each and everyone present here. It is with immense pleasure and honor that we gather here today at the prestigious Indian Institute of Management Rohtak to extend a heartfelt welcome to our distinguished guest, Shri Shatrujeet Kapoor, Honorable DGP, Haryana. We are honored and privileged to have you here with us today, gracing this occasion with your esteemed presence.
Shri Shatrujeet Kapoor is the Director General of Police Haryana. He holds a bachelor's degree in engineering and a master's in industrial management. An officer of the Indian Police Service for the past 34 years, Sir has served in several positions in the Indian police hierarchy, the UN peacekeeping mission in Kosovo, and the Central Bureau of Investigation, India. His tenure as CMD of Haryana Power Distribution Companies, UHBVN and DHBVM, from September 2016 to February 2021 won him accolades from both the government and public for a series of enforcement, commercial, and technological initiatives. Sir was also appointed as the Director General of Prisons of Haryana with an additional charge of Principal Secretary Transport. He was a recipient of the President's Police Medal for Distinguished Service in 2016. Under his leadership, the Haryana Police have adopted innovative strategies, leveraging technology and community engagement to tackle emerging threats effectively. We are honored to have you with us, sir.
We also have with us Professor Dheeraj Sharma, Director of Indian Institute of Management, Rohtak. With experience of over 25 years, he has taught at numerous educational institutions in Europe, Asia, and North America. Professor Sharma has a doctoral degree in business administration with a major in marketing strategy and a double minor in psychology and quantitative analysis from Louisiana Tech University, USA. He has been recognized as a global thought leader for 2019 by the Academy of Global Business Advancement, USA. Professor Sharma has published over 200 articles and multiple books. Professor Sharma has also published in several reputed journals, such as Journals of Academy of Marketing Science, Journal of Vocational Behavior, Journal of Business Ethics, European Journal of Marketing, and many more. In addition, Professor Sharma has written several cases. Professor Sharma has authored multiple books in various domains of management, such as Principles of Marketing, B2B Marketing, Consumer Behavior, Global Marketing, Managing Millennial Workforce, and Non-for-Profit Marketing. He has been bestowed with several awards, including APJ Abdul Kalam National Achievers Award.
I now request Professor Dheeraj Sharma, Director, IIM Rohtak, to kindly welcome the chief guest with a token of respect.
May I also request Professor Dheeraj Sharma, Director, IIM Rohtak, to kindly deliver the welcome address.
Namaste, good morning. It's a privilege and an honor to host Shri Shatrujeet Kapoor, Director General of Police, Government of Haryana, on our campus. We've had the privilege of hosting him before, but this is a special event today where he has written I would say his contribution to the state of Haryana in the form of a book, although his contribution extends beyond this book, and I oftentimes say to many of my friends in police service, that his competence and his standards and the standards that he have come to expect from the Haryana police on account of his leadership. But this book has got little to do with the policing, more to do with governance. I must tell you that one of the banes of our country's infrastructure is electricity. Many a times we would growing up, we recently did a study, as a matter of fact, before the elections, and the study came out during the election period and got a lot of coverage in the national press, where myself and my colleagues of IIM Ahmedabad, Indore, Calcutta, and Lucknow, we all collaborated to do a pan-India study in trying to find out what are the improvements which have taken place in our country. And one of the things which was recognized as being important was reduction in electricity cuts. Now, how important this is, I can just give you one example of how important this is. In 2015/16, I had an opportunity to undertake a very important project for Colgate-Palmolive. They gave us a lot of money. I was in IIM Ahmedabad, almost, I think, more than 1 crore of rupees to confront Patanjali's inroads into toothpaste market. They wanted to know what is going on. Patanjali shook up the entire toothpaste industry, and from time immemorial, we were used to dealing with toothpaste, which was Colgate. As a matter of fact, people would not even say toothpaste; they would say Colgate kar lo. And so they wanted to understand कि हो क्या रहा है, why they shift. I'd leave that project aside. That project got me an opportunity to travel through some 100-odd villages in eastern Uttar Pradesh. And I see Ramashankar nodding his head, because Ramashankar was a student at IIM Ahmedabad, just graduated, and I ended up visiting him during that trip as well. It was amazing that, like Haryana, Mr. Kapoor, you would be delighted to know, delighted that at that point in time, in Uttar Pradesh, the electricity pattern used to be very similar. But half of Haryana, so you can imagine the situation. So you were getting electricity one day and not getting electricity in the other day. Rural eastern UP. Ramashankar is from that part, so he'll vet me. So not only getting electricity alternate day, but in alternate day also getting 12 hours. In the book that he has written, you will find patterns were more or less similar in the state of Haryana in 2018-19, 3,000 odd villages with more than 60%, to be precise, about 66% of those villages were on this pattern. Around 2,100 of those 3,000 odd villages were on this pattern, where electricity was half day, 12 hours and 12 ghante. All of this is on account of inefficiencies. All of these are on account of, somebody bringing some checks and balances into the system. Now, electricity is not something कि आप उसको जेब में रख के बैठ सकते हो ना. It is there, it is produced, it has to be managed. It's a service. And many of you know the difference between service and product. One of the things is that it cannot be stored, it's perishable. It cannot be stored, it's perishable. So, to bring an organization which he led from losses of thousands of crores into generating a profitable organization, profit of 400 odd crores in a few years, and overall accumulated gains of more than 15,000 crores by 2021, between this period of about 3 or 4 years total period. This is a staggering achievement, and we want to congratulate you, and we want to thank you for giving Haryana and our campus, which is in Haryana, continuous electricity, because otherwise we'd be running on diesel generators half the time, and we are in rural area, as you would understand. So Not only this is an achievement, but it is your work which you have documented. That I believe is even more appreciable than the actual work done. Why? Because I was just sharing with him that in IIM Rohtak, in 2017, I had allocated 50 lakh rupees budget for our library to catalog. Our deans, former deans would remember, to catalog all the speeches which are delivered in IIM campus. You put those speeches in, in a pattern in the library, can categorize them. Although we've not really succeeded in that, nothing sort of happened. And we take all these photographs, nothing happened. So it is actually one of the best things that you could do is that you could bring all the things which were done in the form of a document so that it is circulated. It's not just inspirational and motivational. I believe it's a toolkit available to people to implement and maybe attempt the same model in other areas. Not just electricity in other states. Other states could obviously directly concur with some of the issues highlighted. But why just electricity? Why limit it to that? Turning around organizations require turning around of thoughts. Leaders can make thoughts change. As they say, attitudes are dynamic. Once you start changing attitudes of people through your own leadership, through your systematic and systemic interventions, you will see some change. People are really mission driven. People are. If you can show them in some way that they can connect, people will feel a sense of accomplishment and sense of pride. I mean, just imagine there's research as to why people work. Just imagine Wikipedia, I keep giving example, billions and billions of words are written every month, billions of words. And they've given a purpose. People are getting connected to that purpose. Look at the beauty of the governance. Although, of course, there's a very small machinery behind it. Of course, there has to be. It's a huge organization. It's a project of the United States government. We all know that in the backdrop. But people like you are putting stuff there and organizing material there. Just imagine, it's the same attempt was made in a chaotic situation, in a dysfunctional environment in the organization DISCOMs of Haryana, to bring them from that chaotic state to a tranquil state where not just the internal dynamics of the organizations, if you read the book, changed, but of course the results followed. Results will follow once you have the right intent, you have the right governance, you have the right leadership, and it's a demonstrable evidence of how important leadership is for organizational behavior faculty and HR faculty. I submit to them that this is a supplementary read for many of the students who can possibly see how the application of this particular endeavor is not just in the electricity department, can it apply to other areas? And why, again, limited to just PSUs? Why limited? Why not in certain companies? So what are those key attributes? I think that's sort of an assignment for you to highlight. If you were to pick up in a concept paper, just a 4-page concept paper, as to what are the key dimensions, key attributes which have resulted in the transformation here. And government, I mean, it's not easy. It's so difficult to make changes. In probably corporate world, it may be relatively easier. So maybe the results and outcomes could also multiply. The book gives you numerous details of impedances, hindrances, which are posed by the system, but also recognizes the fact that you have to work within the system. You can simplify, you can You can expedite, you can improve, you can change the processes, you can motivate people, you can create structures, but system has to be there. And therefore, in any organization where there is a system, some of these key attributes will apply. Um, we want to congratulate you on this wonderful endeavor. And I'm sure that a lot of management institutions would take advantage of reading your book and trying to maybe find a way in which the applications, as we do in the case method, applications of the context in a different setting, application of concepts in a different setting, models in a different setting, and see what could be derived from this. So many congratulations to you for putting this book together. And I think our students will get a signed copy. Sam, yes. So they will get a copy. And thank you for you to have come all the way for this, I would say, academic release of your book, because in an academic institution, this is the first one. We've already had a book release a few days ago in Delhi, but in an academic institution, ours is the first academic institution, and we are hoping that you will have a full book tour, pan-India, talking about this and telling people of our achievements in Haryana, in the state of Haryana, where the line losses are close to 10-11% now. It used to be something. There are states, without naming the states, there are states where it touches close to 50% even today, which means 50% of all electricity, in simple words, is just stolen, lost, kundi, it's gone. 50%, there are states which are still in that number of 50%. So here, I think it's an achievement. It's an extraordinary achievement. And finally, I think I serve on some boards in government. This is a view that has to change. Many people believe privatization is the answer, that things don't function and we should privatize them, and privatization will result in superior outcomes. I have a slightly divergent view. It doesn't matter whether you privatize or you keep public sector units running. It's a leadership, it's a governance. And I must tell you with great deal of confidence, having served on boards of public sector organizations, that governance in public sector organization oftentimes is much superior to that of private organization. And you can't take a chance because there is such high degree of oversight in the government PSU boards. I speak from my personal experience. So this is also one big answer, that privatization alone, which we've been talking for such a long time, privatization is the answer. Not necessarily. It's a leadership, the competence of the leadership, the commitment of the leadership, the vision of the leadership, that will play one of the biggest roles in the multivariate equation, with the outcome variable being success. So this particular variable will have a significant and large beta, as I would say. Others, there could be other variables, but this is a very important. And if privatization, whether it's a dichotomous variable, I would say that would have an insignificant relationship with the outcome variable being success. At the expense of taking one additional minute, so you will be surprised with that information. In India, the number of people employed in public sector, I'm going to give you this number, it's going to startle you. Various studies, total workforce, and I'm not saying population, I'm saying the workforce. Of the entire workforce of this nation, in India, we have only about 3.2 to 3.5% of the entire workforce involved in government, quasi-government, what are called QANGOs, quasi-autonomous government bodies. Only 3.2, 3.5%. Do you know what that number is in the United States? The number is close to 17%. You know what that number is in the United Kingdom? The number is close to 25, 26%. And these are the flag bearers of privatization. Numerous examples are available. German transit model used to be the envy of the world, that it would operate by the dot, by the second. They privatize it, trains are running late in Germany. You can go there and witness it yourself. Therefore, certain easy, quick fix solutions like privatization are not the answer. The answer here is, as enunciated and provided in the book, it is one of the most important dimensions, with probably a very significant beta, maybe largest, maybe the largest. I don't have a scientific study to back it up right now. Large enough is the competence, commitment, and the vision of the leadership. We see it exemplified in this book. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming, and many, many congratulations to you.
Thank you, sir. I now request Shri Shatrujeet Kapoor, Honorable DGP Haryana, to kindly deliver his address. Sir, please.
Good morning, everybody. Professor Dheeraj Sharma, all the senior faculty members here, and dear students. First of all, I thank Professor Sharma and our dear MCs who introduced me for their kind words. This is my third visit to IIM in the past 1 year. I feel honored every time I'm invited here. And one reason is one gets such positive vibes coming here and being an institute of eminence, excellence is indeed a great honor. The immediate reason for me to be here today, as you know by now, is my stint with the power distribution companies in Haryana that started in 2016 until 2021. So just to give you a very brief background, these companies came into existence in 99. Before 99, all the states had state electricity boards. You must have heard of them. There was an act, 1948 Act, which created boards in every state. But ultimately, mid-80s or so, the losses started piling up, various inefficiencies, and what we call the most important metric in power distribution to measure the performance of DISCOM, we call them DISCOMs, distribution companies, is AT&C loss. AT&C stands for Aggregate Technical and Commercial Losses. So these AT&C losses started piling up all over the country, and then the banking sector came into the banks because they had lent so much of money to the DISCOMs. So they came into stress, and ultimately, every time there is a problem, then there are committees, and finally they make some suggestions. And what happened was they said, okay, let's unbundle the boards. So all the states were told to, divide or unbundle the boards, which actually were taking care of all three functions. The three basic functions in power sector are generation, transmission, and distribution. Electricity, those of you who are from engineering background would know, we have generation from various sources. It could be nuclear, it could be thermal, it could be hydropower, or solar, wind, renewable, non-renewable. All that energy is generated, that's generation, and then it has to be transported to the point of consumption. For that, we have high voltage system up to 765 kV, and that transmission system is together, that entire subset or subsystem is called transmission segment. And then finally, the last mile, the power that is actually the retail function, that is the job of a DISCOM, distribution company. So we have GenCos, generating companies, Transcos, transmission companies, and DISCOMs, distribution companies. So all these distribution companies were in stress for various reasons, mainly because of inefficiencies, and then the unbundling started, and ultimately, like in Haryana also, 99, all the past losses were taken over by the government, about 4,000 crores at that time. And these two companies started with a clean slate on 1st of July 99. And by mid 2015, they had accumulated 34,600 crores of losses. Again, I mean, this because the underlying factors were never addressed. So inefficiencies continued, the AT&C losses continued to hover above 30%. Now that means that every 100 units that the company buys and sells to the consumers, the revenue comes back only for 70 units. So that's the implication of this AT&C loss of 30%. So when you earn revenue only from 70 units and the 30 units are lost primarily because of theft or various inefficiencies in billing, metering, billing, and collection. These are the three basic functions. In any distribution business, not just electricity, it can be water utility or any other distribution utility. So that was the biggest challenge. And so in 2016, again, the government of India, because that was the pattern. Every 15 years, the companies would go back into the red all over the country. Then government of India or the state governments would come out with a bailout package under some fancy name. So first, 2011, a scheme came, financial restructuring plan, which essentially meant taking over of losses of these loss-making companies by the state. State means people. So you nationalize losses, in a way you nationalize inefficiencies, take over the losses and give certain targets knowing that they will not be met. So 2011, this scheme came, which again, the losses were part of the losses were taken over by the government, but the losses, the AT&C losses remained at the same level, the old ways continued. And finally, by 2015 again, the same problem came back. Banks stopped lending. So once you have your lenders not giving you money, business becomes difficult, and electricity being essential commodity, there are problems. So the government has no option but to again come out with a bailout package. So 2016, they came out with a new scheme called Uday. Again, I mean, a new name, but essentially, as part of Uday, 75% of the losses of all state DISCOMs were taken over by the government. And the DISCOMs were given a target. So in Haryana, we were given two targets. They said you bring down AT&C losses from 30 to 15 by the year 21 and make the two companies profitable by the year 2020. So like we had 4 years to make them profitable, 5 years to reduce the losses from 30% to 15%. And anybody in DISCOM business knows that if a company is able to reduce AT&C losses by 2% per annum, it is considered as very, very good performance. And reducing them by 15 percentage points in just 4.5 to 5 years was practically not feasible. It was, believed that it probably won't be achieved. But then at that time, that was a time when the government, they decided and they moved me to the DISCOMs. And I was lucky to have a chief minister who really wanted the DISCOMs to be reformed. And the mandate he gave was very clear. He said, we have to set the rot right. We have to clean up these companies and we have to achieve their targets. An absolute free hand, absolutely fantastic person, amazing leader. And he gave that free hand and we worked hard. And it so happened that the results were beyond our expectations. And we were able to achieve a profit in the second year itself in 2018. we achieved 412 crores of profit in that year. Whereas the annual losses used to be between 1,000 to 2,000 crores every year. So that's how we reached 34,000 in 16 years. So we recorded 412 and that continued. Every year we made profit. The year I left, 2021, we reported a profit of 637 crores. And the AT&C losses, we were able to go down to 17%. The target was by 21 and 17%, because 2021 also turned out to be Corona year. And there were lockdowns, economic activity had slowed down. A lot of departments were not able to pay the, these municipal corporations, committees, etc. That, we missed the target by about 2%, but 30 to 17 itself was a huge achievement. And then this year, the last year that that just passed, 22-23, discounts in Haryana are at 12%, and this year they are going to touch 10. So which is an amazing performance by any standard. And there is something called an annual rating of all the distribution companies, discounts in the country. And we used to be in poor, like B category until 15-16, but now both the companies are A plus. And these next only to Gujarat companies are doing well for past many years. They out of the 4 companies, 3 are A plus. So here, this year, both companies are going to be A plus. And also, more than these data and figures, what is far more satisfying is the fact that in our state, the biggest reason for high AT&C losses was the rural feeders. Rural feeders, the AT&C losses used to be as high as 70 to 80%. That means every 100 units being pumped into a rural feeder, revenue for not more than 20 units would come back. So it was clearly a loss-making proposition to supply to villages. And then the companies, the management reacted by reducing the supply hours. So a trend was, and it was accepted by everybody, the villages, they had no problem with it. Only 12 hours schedule in the entire 24 hours, 10 hours during the night and 2 hours during the day. And but 2016 onwards, we started working on it. And the then Chief Minister, he was clear. He said, he prepared a scheme called Mara Gaon Jagmag Gaon, is a name that he gave. And as part of that scheme, when the villagers started paying their bills regularly, there were many things which were to be done, like upgradation of the distribution network in the villages, and changing the old electromechanical meters, replacing them with static meters, electronic meters, which record the consumption correctly, and moving the meters out of their houses so they are not able to bypass them, and using, instead of conductors, using XLPE cables, which are not easy to tap unauthorizedly. And then new transformers and the entire, new poles, everything new, and releasing new connections. So all those challenges were met. And we were finally, once the losses started going down, we started increasing the supply hours in the villages. And the number out of the 7,000 villages in the state, only 105 used to get electricity on 24/7 basis in the year 2015. Today, that number is 5,816. So 5,800 villages get a schedule of, continuous supply. And of course, there are interruptions at times. There is a fault or something, then maybe actual supply hours would be something like 23.5 or 23 hours, 40 minutes. But it's far, far better than what used to be until 2015. So, and that brought a lot of changes, huge changes in the small economic activities which had stopped in the villages, and people used to migrate actually from villages to nearby city because electricity is so much essential. It's very, very important for in today's world. You just can't live without it. So that has changed now, that migration and many economic activities which had stopped have restarted. Also, we reduced the tariffs. That was a big thing. Every input, the cost of inputs went up, coal became costlier, seventh pay commission was implemented, which means the cost of manpower went up. Every other cost went up, but the tariffs in Haryana were reduced, especially for the domestic sector. We used to supply like first 150 units at 4 rupees 50 paise per unit. So we reduced that to 2 rupee 50 paise. So people don't feel the brunt when their meters are replaced from electromechanical to the electronic meters. Metering becomes correct, and their bills then turn out to be bigger, and there used to be resistance. So that we tackled, and many other things we did. I mean, you have to actually we categorized while writing the book. We categorized all the initiatives into 6 buckets. One set was financial initiatives that were taken, and then the loss reduction initiatives. Then we had a lot of business process re-engineering we did, and specifications, systemic changes in procurement, contract management. So that was one bucket. Then consumer-centric initiatives for improving their experience, and then adoption of technology. And finally, power purchase, economizing on power purchase. That's one bucket because power purchase actually is the biggest cost, biggest input cost. Out of the 100 rupees that any DISCOM spends in the year, almost 80 to 90% is the cost of power that it buys. That is the biggest chunk. So if that is economized and per unit cost of supply is reduced, then with the same tariff, we are in a position to make profit. So all those were, it took time, about 2 years, because I also didn't have much time. My subsequent assignments also kept me busy. But with the help of friends in the organizations that I worked, we all collected a lot of data, a lot of brainstorming, and finally reduced it to in the form of a book. It was initially done on the request of a professor in IIM Ahmedabad. They were running a power cell, or on the power sector. They wanted that case study, so we wrote a case study to begin with, and finally, friends, and one of them is sitting here, and they all motivated me. इतना लिख दिया तो थोड़ा और करके book बन जाएगी. So we finally prepared this, and this essentially is meant for anybody who's interested in management, leadership, and good governance, and also anybody in the power sector. There is a huge sector with overall turnover not less than 20 lakh crores in the country, because even in a small state like Haryana, our turnover is almost 40,000 crores. And bigger states have many times more, the annual turnover. So total turnover is not less than 20 lakh crores. It's a huge sector, and it's critical for the nation's development. And people who work there in the distribution segment, for them it is directly relevant, and also for people who are in the generation and transmission functions. They also, I find that not many of them are aware of the finer nuances of distribution business. That is the most challenging part. So it's meant for them also. And so far as, and I'm glad that I'm Rohtak, and thanks to Professor Sharma, they plan to read it as a supplementary read. Great, I'm really honored. And you, I'm sure, would be able to finally identify, the what it takes to actually turn around a public sector undertaking in a crucial sector like power. So I thank once again Professor Sharma and all of you for being patient and listening to me. And if some question, yeah, okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now, sir would be interacting with the students. Kindly raise your hands if you have any question for him.
Good afternoon, sir. Uh, I think I speak for everyone when I say that we are all very inspired to hear the testaments of your visionary leadership. So, we're all gathered here today to learn about leadership. I was wondering about uh, how important is the aspect of mentorship when we talk about leadership, and since we're all in our formative years, how can we identify, like, what are the qualities which we should look for when we look for a great mentor that we can look up to and follow the footsteps of? Thank you, sir.
Well, role models are absolutely important in life. And it starts with actually early in life, you look, initially as a child, we look up to our parents who pass on so many good values to us, starting from the parents and teachers. And, it can be a friend or a colleague or maybe somebody, some celebrity or somebody, some teacher or anyone in your life. Good qualities, leaders are everywhere around us. And even last time when I was here, I gave an example that if you basically, leadership is finally boils down to certain attributes. And one of them is professional competence. The person who's competent, who has the domain knowledge in his area of specialization, that person is the leader. And then, of course, there are many other attributes. But it's like if you don't feel well and you want to consult a doctor, the first question you would ask is, who's the best doctor in the town? And similarly, if you are looking for let us say, haircut, you would want to know which is the best salon in the town. So they are leaders in their respective field, the best doctors who are really good, barbers who are really good, or cobblers, or even, the teachers. When you select your courses, you generally go by, the person who would teach you. But they are all leaders. And they are the role models. And they can be anywhere. We meet in our day-to-day life. The person can be a good gardener. If he or she has maintained the garden well, that reflects the passion and commitment that the person has. So they are the leaders in their respective field. So, and we meet role models every single day in life. It's just that we don't realize their importance. And all of them have certain things to teach, certain things to directly or indirectly, by their work, by their dedication, commitment. So we learn so much from them. So role models are everywhere, and you're right. I mean, they are important, and we must be willing to learn from everyone that we meet. We have to be humble. Humility is another good quality. No matter how intelligent you are, no matter how many marks you scored, but the guy you are meeting, he could be a simple person on the street. That person has so much to teach us. We can learn from him or her many things. Hope that partially answers your question.
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, everyone. So, discoms and their distribution electricity in rural areas were quite impressive. And congratulations to you, sir, for this for achieving this goal. My question is that what are the challenges you have faced in making the distribution channels, especially in rural areas, and how did that rural people have helped you in achieving that goal?
The biggest challenge anywhere for anybody in leadership position is the resources that we command. Human resource, that's the most critical resource that we all have. Inspiring that resource, the people who are working in the organization, first of all, fixing the accountability at each level, and then keeping the morale high. These two are the most important responsibilities for the top management. And then the systems within. Business process re-engineering one has to undertake on a continuous basis, learn and keep on implementing the new ideas, experience of others, we have to learn from them, and that gradual improvement we have to bring in within the organization. And coming to the specific question that our friend posed about rural electrification, how we did it, and the role of people. So the biggest challenge was, people were not willing to come out of their, they were not willing to shake up the status quo. They were happy with 12-hour supply. They said, don't disturb us. Let's, allow us to continue like this. And we are happy with this 12-hour thing. And we don't want electricity because we don't want to pay bills. So bill payment was not acceptable to people in villages in this state. Many districts, most of the districts, in fact, barring few districts like Gurugram or Faridabad or, the metropolitan areas. And that was the biggest challenge, changing the mindset. We worked on that. And keeping the tariffs low, reducing the tariff, and also, showing them all the benefits of better supply hours. That was a huge challenge, and we undertook awareness drives. We started off with soft areas. Instead of a district like Rohtak, for example, it was one of the toughest. Rohtak and neighboring districts. We had riots here actually, 2016, based on certain other issue, but those riots were bad. And after that, anti-government feelings were very, very strong. So we didn't touch these areas initially. We started off with softer areas. We took up districts as a whole. So we initially took up 3 districts, Panchkula, Gurugram, and Ambala. So these districts, and we upgraded the distribution network on our own, spending 1 CR per feeder on an average, and improved the supply hours on our own. And gradually, once people realized, and the younger generation also had a role in it, once they realized the benefits of better supply hours, they started grudgingly accepting the reforms. And finally, when the supply hours turned out to be like 24/7, and the disruptions came down almost to nil, I mean, people were delighted. And at the same time, tariff was reduced by half. So the increased bills were taken care. Their overall bill, we made sure that a normal household in a village doesn't get electricity bill of more than 500 rupees a month. With 150 units at 2 rupees 50 paise, we were able to achieve. And people, I mean, are well off. They spend a lot more money on their cell phones, their SIMs and data. So gradually they accepted it, and we started off with these 3 districts, increased the number to 10. And finally, you will be surprised, the DISCOM, which has Rohtak in it, this year, their line loss, AT&C losses are less than 10. And this district, which used to have more than 50% AT&C losses, they have significantly gone down, below 20%. I mean, gradually that change has come, and now people, while marrying their daughters, they ask about the supply hours in that village where they are sending their daughter. So girls are not willing to go to a village where they won't get electricity. So the reforms also come, you know, many social forces also help in reforms. Initially, it was difficult, but gradually it picked up.
Good afternoon, sir. My name is Ishani Pathak. I'm a fourth year law student. So my question is, how does a leader determine or chooses what leadership style is best suited in a given situation?
Well, that's a very interesting question. And I'm sure leadership would be a subject for, I'm not sure about the law students we teach. Yeah, OBs used to be, my subject was also management, incidentally, in civil services long back. So, and I read many books on management because of that exam. And I recall we used to have a subject OB, and OB used to have one chapter on leadership. And many years later, I got a chance to go on a Fulbright scholarship. I went to US for 1 year, and I was surprised that leadership is a separate now body of knowledge, much bigger than what it used to be in 80s. And even bigger surprise, I'm deviating from your question, sorry, but bigger surprise was that they teach Mahatma Gandhi. In almost all American universities, Gandhi is taught, as part of the leadership and various styles. So styles of leadership are, again, over the years, theories have developed. And initially, they probably thought is genetic. Then environmental theories and, behavioral and many things which are forgotten by now. But yes, your question that what style is most suitable, that I would say varies from person to person. The person you are talking to, some need a certain way of dealing with them. Some need little pushing, some need motivating, some are self-driven. So you have to identify people. But yes, certain qualities which I always, advocate, they help. One, as I said, professional competence. You have to be competent. You have to be the best in your field to be able to lead. Unless you know your subject, unless you know the work that you are supposed to do, it's not easy to lead a team of high achievers. So you have to be, in a position to guide them. The professional competence is very, very important. Experience will come with time. So, but the knowledge about the subject that you are dealing with is very important. And of course, then another thing is, taking the team along. One, that ability to stand in the shoes of the other person is very important. Empathy. Is when you leave this institute, go into the job, you'll all work in a team. And if your team leader doesn't care for you, you will not respect him or her much after some time. And then another bad quality, or I would say, some people, demonstrate is like this: say one thing, do another. Hypocrisy. That, as a matter of principle, I would strongly advise to never preach what you don't practice here. Never do that, because everybody is sharp enough to notice that this person who's our leader, team leader or manager, he says one thing and practices another. Or some people have that bad habit of, that we commonly call that, kick below and lick above. So they like indulge in psychophancy, etc. And but the people who are below them, they behave in a cruel manner. One should never get into that. So be considerate, be humble, be empathize with your people, stand in their shoes before taking any adverse view, and give an opportunity of being heard. before making up your mind. And be fair and honest in your life. We should be honest in our dealings. And very soon you will realize that even your difficult decisions, decisions which otherwise would not have been supported or liked by your team, will be accepted, and they will actually give their 100% to make you a successful leader, for the success of the team. So that these are common qualities. And of course, again, based on the person within the same team, there will be some high achievers, some people who are self-driven, some who need to be pushed, some who are shirkers, but then you don't have to tell them. And then you have to find a way to motivate them to get the best out of them. So that style would vary to that extent.
Very good afternoon to one and all present over here. So my question is related to the energy sector itself. So basically in India, we have long-term energy contracts, like up till 25 years. But so recently there has been a shift towards short-term energy contracts. Like in most foreign nations also, there is most of the requirement is meant to short-term trading on, basically electricity on exchanges. So even in India, we have new exchanges like the Indian Energy Exchange. So what do you believe is the way moving forward? Is it going to be better if we shift towards short-term, energy trading or energy contracts? Will it help to, solve the problem with even Director Sir mentioned that most of the states are wasting up to 50% of the electricity that is available? Thank you, sir.
Well, so far the model that we have been following in this country is long-term power purchase agreement, minimum 25 years. And the reason is power plants they require high capital expenditure. A thermal power plant would be not less than 8 to 9 CR per megawatt. So if you're setting up a power plant of 1000 megawatts, 1200, that would mean investment of 10 to 15,000 CR. Similarly, hydro is even costlier. Nuclear would be much costlier. So the generation was delicensed in 2003. Before that, you needed a license. But in 2003, because there was immense shortage of electricity in the country, so they delicensed it. Private sector came in a big way. But they needed that assured market. Without assured market, no bank would lend them money. Banks do not lend money to any project unless they have a power purchase agreement, long-term power purchase. So it's kind of, it's a requirement in India to have long-term power purchase agreement. But yes, you are right. Now, many foreign countries, US, for example, New York, 97% of the electricity, the DISCOM buys from the exchange. There is power exchange, and there are generators who are happy selling their power in the exchange on a daily basis at a fluctuating price that is discovered every single day, just like the share market. And the utilities, they buy from there, and that's how they are functioning. So that is an ideal situation. But here, because we are an evolving and developing economy, I don't think if, that will be a huge challenge if we tell them that we will not enter into long-term power purchase agreements, but you set a plan. Even the biggest industrial houses, business houses, will refuse to invest that kind of money. So, and right now the banks also, they will not lend. So there are a whole lot of structural issues, but yes, gradually within these constraints, the role of energy exchange is growing. Role of, now we have real-time market. 4 years back, we didn't have. We had to plan power purchase on day-ahead basis. It's very, very interesting actually. Those of you, I don't know, I think you worked in power sector, it appears to me, or you might have read about it. So it's very, very interesting field. If some of you choose to go into power sector, it's very interesting. And energy is the future. It's just like IT in the 90s. Those who went into IT in the 90s, they to my mind, made a great decision. Today, energy is at the same juncture. That is the future. Renewables, that is the future. So ultimately, we have to decarbonize our economy and we have to move away from fossil fuels for the sake of humanity. And ultimately, so this is going to be a great field. So some of you who are interested in power sector, well, I would say, please, read about it. And if you choose to get into one of these companies, and maybe, you can, after 4, 5, 7 years, some of you, you can even start, start a new company, entrepreneurship. You can get into renewables, and that's a great field. Thank you.
Good afternoon, sir. I am Mahalakshmi from IPL Sir, you've been a leader through and through in your life. I am somebody who aspires to be a leader, especially in governance. So, but one thing that has haunted me since I've decided that I wanted to be a leader is my personal life is something that I'm extremely fond of. But I understand that leadership comes with responsibility and it may be taxing on your personal life. So I just want to hear from you in order to prepare myself or to understand how taxing is your leadership role on your personal life.
Well, it all depends, if you choose the correct field. For example, if you want to be a doctor, you really want to be a doctor, you're passionate about it, and you ultimately become one, then you will never feel tired. It all depends on the aptitude of the person. If you choose an area that you really want to be in, then to my mind, you will never feel tired, or, no profession, no matter how busy you remain, or it keeps you busy, you will never feel, it to be taxing. It's just like, a child, you must have noticed the child plays, and ultimately, suddenly the child would fall asleep because the child doesn't know this concept of time, or, the infant or the child would do what he or she feels like doing. And then, and there is no stress. And same thing, if we choose the right career or right field to work in, to my mind, you will not feel tired at any point in time or stressed. So that's my small answer to your question. And if you are really interested in, like, those who join government service, if a person is really interested in public service, working for others, and he or she chooses to be in a government job, that is the right fit. That's a great fit. But if a person, for example, has the mindset of being a good businessman and chooses a profession like medicine, so then there'll be a misfit. But that misfit would result in it can result in any bad outcome also. So we have people who have been selling kidneys, or so ultimately they probably had that aptitude to be a great entrepreneur or a good businessman, but they got into the wrong field. So that match is very, very important. Yeah, I'm not sure if that answered your question, but yeah.
Good afternoon, sir. After the process of the unbundling, there were two kinds of companies. One was the discoms and other ones the PPPs. So what I have observed is that in the PPPs model, there were multiple DERs, distributed energy resources, which acted as a key source of providing electricity at the discoms levels. So there has been a certain trend in these PPPs that they are trying to integrate these DERs into the main grid. So I would like to know about the perspective of discoms, whether they want to implement these DERs into this integrated grid, they want to integrate it, or they want to keep it as a separate function, because while integrating it, it will come with a cost of its own.
Yeah, actually, there is no choice. Now, as a policy, the government by law is mandating all the discoms to integrate more and more renewable energy. we are moving towards renewables. And renewables are mostly solar, wind, and then biomass. These are the three major renewables. Hydro, of course, now small hydro, less than 25 megawatt, initially was acknowledged as renewable energy. Now they have even included bigger projects. So hydro is another one, though it has side effects on the ecology. So that by law, all the DISCOMs are required to meet certain targets. This is called RPOs, Renewable Purchase Obligation. So they have to buy certain fraction of their total demand from renewable sources. Now, renewables can be of various forms. They can be a solar, maybe, a centralized solar plant somewhere in Rajasthan, generating, let us say, 10,000 megawatts. And it can even be a rooftop solar plant, which each one of us can support on the top of our, on the roof of our house. So that is distributed. So to my mind, all the DISCOMs, we always encouraged rooftop plant because that is the best, in the sense that you don't have to transport electricity. You don't need a grid. It is right there on the roof, and it is exactly on the point of consumption. So that is the least cost model. But if you generate solar energy or wind energy in some coastal area, to transport that is called wheeling. So, the transmission and wheeling that has a certain cost. And another issue with these renewables is that they are called infirm energy. Infirm because solar and wind varies with every minute. Wind speed would vary and solar cover would vary. There'll be clouds or there'll be, n number of other obstacles. So this power is not firm, unlike thermal or hydro. Thermal, we fix it to run the plant at let us say 1000 megawatt. It will run at 1000 megawatt for next 10 days. It's firm power. We are assured of that supply. But the renewables are infirm mostly. So that is a challenge. That is the most challenging part of the power sector. It's called system operation. I've given in one chapter, I've given an entire account of system operations in very simple language for anybody to understand how it is done. So that you will get answer to your question from that chapter.
Thank you for sharing your experience, sir, and we appreciate the audience for asking such intriguing questions. I now request Professor Dheeraj Sharma, Director, IIM Rohtak, to kindly deliver the vote of thanks.
Thank you for providing us your time and valuable insights and very intriguing and interesting questions. Again, I think some of the things that you've just mentioned to start with could possibly result in some further investigation. I think that question was very interesting about the power exchanges. I remember that when I was studying in the US, that students like us were encouraged to wash their clothes at night because electricity charges were real time. Night electricity charges were lower, day were higher, because at night, post midnight electricity consumption would taper off. Similarly, when the days during the daytime, the houses are empty, there's still electricity supply coming. So I think some of these models, at the expense of sounding more knowledgeable than I am about electricity and power, I am not. I have very little knowledge, but I think some of these things probably warrant some sort of an experimentation. We already have a power exchange as a listed company and so on and so forth, doing very well, by the way, in market. And so that demonstrates interest of people and also intent of the government in doing. So these are some areas which he's highlighted. that probably warrant some sort of a project, and also for people who have high entrepreneurial proclivity, for them to maybe launch a venture. I think that's another question, very interesting one. There's a phenomenon of what they call market coupling now. That's gaining attention in many Western countries in terms of power, how inter-border, interstate cooperation, sharing resources, Indo-Bhutan agreement, Indo-Bangladesh agreements, or some of the agreements that you can look into. What he's mentioned again is a subject of finding a balance between what we talked about: long duration, short duration, real time, and so on and so forth. In the beginning, a very important discussion on leadership, attributes of leadership, how it's become very important. We were reminded of Gandhi today. Again, one way of going, one way of leadership, one leadership style. One of the most renowned personalities from India. Segueing into the second question, or not second question, segueing into one of the questions, that how it boils down to interpersonal. You could lead a nation and you could still fumble with the family. That I probably was the question that somebody asked, that I want to be a leader, but when I become a leader, then I can't go and do some of the crazy things that you see on YouTube Shorts and Instagram Reels. But don't bother, because you would find that people, even in government service, occupying very important positions today, likely to become even more important in the future, are making a fool of themselves in some of these YouTube Shorts and Instagram videos. Takes away nothing from them. Ideal thing to do is sort of have a balance. Everybody does, crazy things, as I say. Many people in my generation would say that if there were cell phone cameras back when we were in school, I don't think people would have hired us anymore. So a lot of things. It's a different generation, different. Everybody's under the lens all the time. These are all challenges already. Without being in leadership position, you are under the microscope. So, I mean, there used to be leaders who used to be under microscope. Now you're under the microscope all the time. Your parents are able to make a video call at night to ascertain whether you are there in your dormitory at 9:15 or 9:30, whatever time they're. Are they doing that? How many of you, just show of hands, and how many parents make a video call on regular basis to you? So there you go. I think all others who are not raising their hands are doing it out of lethargy and are trying to demonstrate their independence when it really doesn't exist. And they're chiding themselves. The fact of the matter is that we have all these instruments available, and Shatrujeet Kapoor gave a very beautiful answer. To each his own. I mean, it's a call that you have to take. You have to marry things. It's a sacrifice. Any position that you take, be it in a corporate, be it in public service, you have to make certain sacrifices. You can't be seen with your finger in your nostrils. I mean, if that's what you enjoy, it doesn't happen that way. You could do it. You can't be, scratching you'd like to do that, but you can't do that. Everything boils down to what is expected of you, what you expect of yourself. What is expected of you is what you expect of yourself. So it's a choice. Good answer for you to take away from what was conveyed, that I think you have to take that call. And in India, I must tell you, and particularly we practice it, this concept of work-life balance is an archaic, old, nonsense concept. In India, we believe in work-life integration. There is no work-life balance. Work-life is integrated. If you enjoy your work, it's integrated. I really enjoy doing research, working on research ideas, working on research projects. I love having dinner with my doctoral students, even in the evening, beyond my office hours, just to chit-chat, sharpen my mind, come up with some ideas, give them work. I mean, of course, they don't like spending that time with me, giving them work. But I enjoy it. I enjoy, it's about integration. It's work-life integration. There is no work-life balance. There is no balance. I mean, who would like to work? I mean, if work was drudgery. Would you like to work if work was drudgery? No, you wouldn't. If work is interesting, work is fun, you'd like to do it. But if it's drudgery, nobody would want to do it. Life, and again, I don't know how do you separate life from work. ये भी बड़ा एक nonsense सा concept है. Life, every moment is a life. You're doing something, action orientation. आप तो करोगे ही. Somebody was giving me an example कि अगर आपके रात को सोते हुए गाल के ऊपर मच्छर बैठता है, आप थप्पड़ मार के, automated motion, so action orientation तो हो ही रहा है. So the point here is that very interesting concept that what he relayed to you is that don't be bothered about these things if you're pursuing a leadership role. It shouldn't bother you. These are not constraints to be concerned about. And finally, I think one very good example, learning example, and I want to thank you for bringing that, is change. It's extremely difficult. Do you realize to convince people that you deserve you deserve better life, if I may say. Definition of good life, if you present major constituents, it's like definition of party. Now, what is the definition of a party? Students are smiling, they don't want to answer this question. Thoda mera lihaj kar lete hain. The students, I really love my students, and they mera thoda wo kar. But the definition of party kya hai? What is the definition of party? It'll have 4 or 5 dimensions which will explain about 90% of the variance. One would be eating out, second would be music, third would be dance, fourth would be something that you cannot do on campus but you might want to step out of the campus, and fifth could be just doing something crazy. Right? 4 or 5 dimensions will encapsulate about 90% of the definition of party. Now, he mentioned something very important. Villagers don't want to have a better life. पैसे नहीं देने हैं हमको. ठीक है, 12 घंटे नहीं, 8 घंटे भी आए, 6 घंटे, it doesn't matter. Money we don't want to give. So to convince people, that I believe is a significant achievement. And I think that is the subject area which I think in the book. And also we need to discover कि लोगों को बताना यार तुम्हारे लिए अच्छा है. And I'm telling you, very simplistically, I'm using a little bit of Hindi, I hope you don't mind. लोगों को ये बताना कि ये तुम्हारे लिए अच्छा है, ये itself एक बहुत बड़ी बात है. आप किसी को बताने जानो ये तुम्हारे लिए अच्छा है. The first response is, how do you know ये मेरे लिए अच्छा है? मेरे लिए वो अच्छा है, मुझे पता है. You don't have to tell me मेरे लिए क्या अच्छा है. I know मेरे लिए क्या अच्छा है. मेरे लिए तो जो चल रहा है वो अच्छा है. I keep telling my doctoral students, I meet them very, very often. I said the single biggest bane of being a student is गप. गप खत्म ही नहीं होती. आपका हॉस्टल में 9 बजे, 9:30 बजे, 10 बजे लाइट्स आउट, 11 बजे कर दो. गप का कोई एंड है? You can continue till 4 AM in the morning. आप 4 बजे तक कंटिन्यू कर सकते हो. So who is to tell you when to stop? कौन बताएगा आपको कि यार अब हो गया? Sometimes body starts giving up. Sometimes the jokes become stale. Sometimes यार अब बहुत हो गया, इसने इतनी देर से बोल रहा है, I'm getting a headache. Sometimes you run out of material. There are many things. But in life that doesn't happen. Aspiration is the key, what he meant. Once you create aspiration in people, and that's a function of a leader. Leader अगर आपके अंदर एक aspirational quality create कर दे, कि in order for you to be in your surroundings, आपको ये, this is what is expected of you. What is good life? The definition of good life. Definition of good life क्या है? उसके भी constituent standard हैं globally. 90% variance explained by few things. Good life क्या है? अच्छा घर. अच्छे घर का मतलब क्या है? अच्छे घर का मतलब क्या है? What do you mean अच्छा घर? उसमें पहले बिजली, पानी, बेसिक, उसके बाद मे बी एयर कंडीशनिंग, उसमें बिजली लग गया. 24/7 कंफर्टेबल बेड. अच्छा, अच्छी लोकेलिटी. अच्छी लोकेलिटी में बाकी भी वैसे ही होने चाहिए. लोकेलिटी का मतलब क्या है? ब्रोकन विंडो थ्योरी आपको बता देगी, बाकी घर भी वैसे ही होने चाहिए. सेकंड डेफिनेशन ऑफ गुड लाइफ, गाड़ी. थर्ड डेफिनेशन ऑफ गुड लाइफ, clothes. Fourth definition of good life, celebrations, events. This will explain the good life as an outcome variable by about 80-90% variance. So how do you do that? Leaders are supposed to create that aspiration in people. Otherwise, there's no reason for you to get up in the morning. There is no reason for you to get up in the morning to chase something. The 1400 calories that you require for sedentary life, and by the way, that notion of 2300 calories is also archaic one. For men, for sedentary lifestyle, you need 1500 calories, 1600 tops. For women, maybe 1300-1400 tops. इतने calorie मत खाया करो, skip one food, एक meal skip किया करो, बहुत खाते हो तुम लोग. Eat less. Eat less, I'm telling you. Sedentary lifestyle, women 1300, 1400, 1450 at best. Men 1500, 1600 calories. What is it? The good aspiration, if you can create as a leader aspiration in people and define what is good life. Here, one of the biggest contribution was to define good life, where electricity in a village is a definition of good area, and having electricity for large number of hours is an epitome of good life. ये larger level पे strategic level पे signaling है, जिससे लोगों ने फिर वो आपका support किया, what he enunciated so well in an example. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for coming and providing us this opportunity to listen to you. We are grateful to you. Thank you and Jai Hind.
Now, I request everyone to please rise for the national anthem.
जन गण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय सिंह वीर उत्कल विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना उच्चल जलधितरंगा तब शुभ नाम जागे तब शुभ आशीष मांगे गावे तब जय गाथा जन गण मन जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे
I request the audience to please remain seated. Pursuant to sir's direction, I welcome the faculty and a few students up on the stage.